So we have enough number of questions. Let's take it one by one. And all are relevant in some way of what we are doing, finding element and all. So very first thing, how to learn CSS selector in detail. Okay. I have given you one example, like you can, if this is the element, if this is the web element in HTML, you are able to see this code, you can convert it to this as a CSS selector. So very basic logic is tag name, bracket, attribute is equals to single quote value, value of that attribute, value of attribute. So this is the way you find an element. So for example, if my code is this, I'm writing it, input type, type is equals to text, which is for the text box, and class is equals to in the double quote XYZ. If I want to write CSS selector for this, I will simply write input, my tag name. The attribute is type is equals to in single quote text. Now it's up to you whether you want to use another attribute or not. So let's say you want to use this class also. So you will say again, there is another attribute class is equals to XYZ. How in the website it works, it's like this. It will find in the website where is the input tag, which contains one attribute type, and the value of that attribute should be text, as well as there is another attribute class which contains the value as XYZ. And there may be multiple things here. Let's say you want to use something. Let's say ID is also there, but you don't want to use it. Okay. Some ID is also there, and you think this is dynamic. I don't want to use it. So keep it this till this point. That's fine. So this is your CSS selector. Now question is, there are a lot of other things about CSS selector. This is not just this. So some of the trick I'll tell you. Whenever you see the ID, you can use hash. So for example, if your code is this, let's go back to the code. So here, if you see, we identified the, uh, the text box, this one, we identified it by ID. If I do right click and I'll inspect it, I'm able to see the code is input type is equals to text, ID is equals to login email, right? So if you want to write driver dot find element by ID, that is also fine. But you can write in another way also. You can write it like this also. Let me write it directly in the code. So here, instead of writing by.id, you can say by.css selector. And here you can put hash. That's it. Hash is the shortcut to find the element through the ID. Okay. But you have to put then here CSS selector, right? So hash means ID, shortcut for that. Okay. One way. If it is class, you can put dot. If it is class, you can put dot. Okay. That's why I said earlier, learning HTML, basic of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, if you know, your life will be easy as a test engineer. Okay. What are the things? So let me write it. Class, you can use hash. Sorry, dot. For ID, you can use hash. Okay. So for example, let's take some example. I want to identify hmm, this forward password link, right? So I'll inspect it, right click, inspect. So there is a forgot password link. Let's see what is the code behind it. It's saying A, where href is forgot this. Now I have a problem. There is no ID, there is no class, right? So how to do that? So always remember there are thousands of way to reach to a particular element. If you're not able to find, so let's say the easiest way is doing driver.find element by linked text, because this is a link and it is proved by that this anchor element. You can use driver dot find element by link text forgot password dot click. So ideal code should be like this. Let me write. After this, I want to click on the forgot password, right? So I'll say driver dot find element by dot link text this one, and you want to click on it. That's fine. It will work. There is no harm in writing this code. But let's assume that you don't want to use link text. Maybe this link text is very big, you don't want to use it, or for some reason you don't want to use it. Still, there are options. You can go to its parent. It's like identifying the child by its parent. In real life also it works, right? When you want to identify any 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 kid, you can identify by their parent, right? So for example, let's say you're entering to a class and you say, hey, who is John, right? Who is John? Maybe there are 2 to 3 John. Or if you ask who is Geeta in the class, so maybe it's possible there are more than one uh, person with the name Geeta is present. But when you can identify by the parent, maybe you will sort out it. So, for example, I can say, hey, who is John here, whose parent is Mr. Something like XYZ, right? Mr. Michael. You can say, I want to find out John, whose parent is Michael, something like that. So this element can be identified through the parent also. How to do that? You just go to the parent. Here I'm able to see there is a paragraph where class contains forgot password, and then it has a child. See here, there is an arrow icon which says there is a hidden thing. This is the parent and this is a child. Okay. Parent, this is not P means parent, it's paragraph, right? As of now, in this example, this is like a parent one, which is actually paragraph, right? P means paragraph here, but through the tree structure, I'm able to see that it is parent. Any element will have its parent. So for example, paragraph has a parent element form footer. Okay. So I can start from here also. But as of now, I'm taking this example. P class is this. So what I can do, hey, let's identify the parent first. So I will say, hey, I will write it like find a paragraph. Let's identify again, forgot password. Yeah. So find a paragraph whose class is forgot password message, right? So I'll say P dot. So one way is I'll write P where class star is equals to means where class contains forgot password message, right? This particular thing. I'll not use this text center because that is related to some CSS design, but this looks good. P where there is a paragraph where class attribute is there and that class attribute contains forgot password message. Now I'm able to identify it, but I don't want to click on the paragraph. Let's understand. I want to click on the link. So here I'll say arrow A. Arrow means its child. So I want to go from this to its child, immediate child, which is one anchor element, which is one anchor element. So this is the way you can write CSS selector, or you can again explore it. So you want to find, there may be multiple anchor elements. So you'll say, I want to find anchor element whose at href value contains star is equals to what it contains, forgot. Spelling mistake. Now, great. So this is the perfect one, I believe, to identify this particular element. So instead of write, this will also work, but I'm saying alternate to this is this particular code. I'll write driver dot find element by dot CSS selector and this particular CSS selector, and I want to perform what? Dot click. Done. Okay, simple. Now, what are other things? I told you the very, what we say, difficult thing to do it. There's some kind of complex thing. The rest of the things are very easy about CSS selector. Okay, how to write in another way. Now the shortcut. Let's learn about the shortcut. Once you create the CSS selector, there are shortcuts. So find one paragraph where class is this, right? So you can directly say dot. Instead of saying class is equals to this, you can directly put this, right? Which is a bit complex. Everybody will not understand it. And then you want to find out one A element, right? So here you put arrow, A element, and it href value is this. No, you can't do anything because you don't want to use the attribute. If you want to use the attribute, you have to write it this way. If there is just uh, ID and class name, you can use it in this way. So this will also work. This code will also work. Let's try. In the code, if I'll write instead of this, can I write this? Yes, it is identifying. Okay, let's run this code to check whether things are good or not. I'm running the code. Let's not close and quit because I just want to show the forgot password is opened. So let's run this now. It's running the code. I'm not doing anything. See here, forgot password link is clicked. This is done by the code. I didn't do anything. Fine. So this is working. Now uh, I'm not going to take other questions, guys. I have already, a lot of questions. Maybe you will understand through other questions, whatever you're asking. Okay. So CSS selector in detail, if you want to write, just Google it. No, just Google. There are not a lot of things about it. Just Google the same thing. CSS select, learn CSS selector in detail. Somebody must have written the blog about it. It's like this. But 80% of the thing I have told you, this is the way to do it. Okay. If so, only thing is you either use arrow, or if you don't know at what level the child is present, you can use space. Okay. If you know it is immediate child, you put arrow. If you don't know at what level the child is present, you can use space. Okay. Now, what if ID is dynamic? So if the ID is dynamic, don't use it. Use some other way, maybe the XPath, maybe the link text, maybe the tag name, anything. How and when to use index in XPath, or whether it is a good thing to use an index. First of all, let's understand about the index path. Okay. Okay. With example, let's assume that the structure is like this: div starting, div end. Okay. And then you have here input, just the tag name, input. This is also text, type is equals. So there are three text box. This will create three text boxes in the website, right? Control C, Control V, Control V. And you want to pick this one, the second one, right here. Now what to do? Well, how to write the XPath for this? If people knows the XPath here, just put your answer um, in the chat window. I'm saying identify this, or if you want to write CSS, anything if you want to write, identify this second element. Okay. How you do it? Do it. Put it in chat window. The first thing we should understand is what is XPath. XPath is XML path, or we say it's kind of address of your element in a web page. It's like address. How you write the address, right? How you write the address? You start from the root, right? So for example, if I'll ask you, where do you live, right? So the correct answer will be like this. In India, there is a city which is called Hyderabad. There is a place, maybe like Abids, and there is a, let's say my society is Taj Society, and then there is a house number 23, and that is how you can identify, right? So you can start from the root, right? So HTML also has its root, right? So any website starts with the HTML tag as a root parent element. Okay. You can start from HTML also, but then it will be very long. So for example, if I want to identify this login link, there is another way. You can do right click, say, say, okay, not here. So let's inspect it first. So if I inspect this login link, right click here and say copy full XPath. Okay, if I'll copy this and I'll put it here, okay, let's see how it will look like. So it's a big XPath. It's saying start from the HTML, go to the body, and then div, then main, then go to the second div, then there is a div, there is a section one, there is a div one, there is a form, go to the button. So this is a complete path that is called absolute path. Another thing is relative path. So this is the relative path where you can start. You don't have to go from here. You can start in the middle also, right? So you don't have to start from the HTML. So there is a div which you can identify uniquely. It's like this. Okay, coming back to this example, the thing is how XPath works. Now let's understand. Let me delete it now. So how XPath works. So what I will say that, hey, my answer should be this, right? So XPath starts with 2 times slash. I want to identify one input tag, and how XPath works. Attribute you have to put with @. So I want to identify where the type value is text, but there is a problem. This kind of element is 3 times here. There are 3 elements with the same kind of identification, that there is a tag input where the attribute value is text. Okay, now there is a problem. What to do? So you can use index. So you can say that, hey, you can put it in the bracket. Even if you will not put the bracket, then also it will work, but it's fine to put the bracket and say, hey, second one. Okay. Now it will directly reach to this point. It will identify this. Okay. This is the way to put the index, but generally it's not a good idea, because if somebody will put another text box, right, your order will change, right? So you should find out uniquely how to go till this. Anyways, you can put div also here. Okay. So you want to start with the div. How we'll read this? How we will read this? It's like find out a div. Double slash means anywhere in the page. Find out a div. Let me put this bracket out. Hold on. So find out a div. Then find out the input inside the div, anywhere in the div. So this is the parent, right? All these are child element for this div element. So find out all the input where attribute value type is text, and then go to the second one. It's like this, right? So this will be the index. Fine. Fine. Now I'm taking the next question. How and when to use index? So index, when there are multiple elements, then use the index in your XPath. Which is good to use, XPath or CSS selector? So if CSS selector you are able to make, use CSS selector, right? It is a bit fast, okay, a bit fast. Not much difference will be there, but CSS selector, if you are able to make CSS selector. CSS selector is faster than XPath, so the answer is yes, a bit, a bit. Why it is faster or slow? Because how XPath works is it reaches to the point, it searches the thing, and then backtracking is difficult. So thing is, you want to go to the parent, you want to go to the ancestor, descendant. So there are a lot of options available there, which is a bit slow. Which locator is most preferred to use when it is available? So when it is available, use ID. Of course, if ID is unique, best thing to use it. Okay, ID, if it is present as an attribute and the unique value of ID is present, use ID. Else create CSS selector, else then create XPath. Now some companies says that we want to use XPath only just for the uniformity purpose. Use it. Some companies says that to make their framework all with the XPath, it's fine. But I don't find any difficulty or any argument, valid argument to say only use XPath or only use it. See, whatever you can identify uniquely, use it. It's like this. If XPath starts from / star means any tag. Okay, so / star means any tag. You don't worry about what tag name it is. Okay, it's a good question. This particular question is a good question. So basically, here you want to say with the same example, say you don't want to say I want to identify input text only, right? So you can put here a star. It's like find any tag which has attribute type value as text. It's like this. So you can use asterisk. Okay, fine. And what other questions we have? How to handle multiple page at a time? Okay, that I'll take now in the next session.